Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, you're a real estate investor? Oh, you're trying to learn from those who did it? Well, come into the lab then. Put your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all. Real estate experiment. What is happening, y'all? Today, I have the pleasure of having Eric Martel. That's right, Eric. Not to be confused with Antoine, because we did have Antoine step into the lab, but I'm so excited to have the connection come full circle because we have the myth, the legend, the man himself. So, first of all, Eric, welcome to the lab, and it's such a pleasure of having you here. And I'm excited to talk about how you pretty much, let's call it an empire. Let's call it what it is. But I definitely want to get right into the beginning. So first of all, let's talk about the connection. Tell me about yourself. I think there's some fun facts I hear that we got to put out to our listeners. So we were debating on having this podcast in French because, we just realized that we have a French connection. And I believe we also do have a Canadian connection. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I lived in Hamilton, Ontario.
Okay. Yeah, I lived in Montreal. Yeah.
Montreal. And then I lived in Ottawa.
Okay.
And then my family relocated to Atlanta. So that's where we are in the marketplace. And I believe you're based out of?
So we're in LA. I'm in LA. And then we do business basically in Memphis and Cleveland.
That's right. Not too far.
Yeah.
Not too far.
Yeah.
So, but okay, take me a step back because obviously, I got a chance to connect. I know a lot about you, but I want you to tell to the people who are listening. Who is Eric? Who was he before, and who are you today? And just cover it in a very kind of high level of maybe the highlights. Give us the highlights. Give us the juice, and then we'll get to the nitty gritty.
Absolutely, and then I'll fit Antoine into this as well, kind of like
absolutely
how he fit in and all that. How we got onto this.
Yeah.
But really, my first real estate transaction when I was 18 years old, I bought an 8-unit apartment building in. Since you know about Canada, in Trois-Rivières, just outside of Montreal.
No kidding.
Yeah. I was at university at the time, second year of university, but I had met a gentleman who was a real estate investor, and he agreed to mentor me. And that real estate investor was just a regular community college teacher, but somehow this guy with his regular income, nothing special, was able to build like a 36-unit apartment building, and that was cash flowing, and basically he was doing great on his salary, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And at the time, my goal was not to achieve financial freedom and stuff like that. I was 18 years old. I didn't, I had the whole life in front of me. I didn't see the need to do anything like that. But I knew that this was a great opportunity for me to learn something. And so I just grabbed onto him and said, can you teach me? Can you, coach me, mentor me to get this transaction done? I didn't know what that looked like. And that's what happened. And then I ended up buying an 8-unit apartment building, no money down, cash flowing in Trois-Rivières. I was trying to look at that online, on maps.google.com, but these buildings have been removed now, and some brand new buildings are on top of that. But so that was great, and so I continued my career as an actuarial consultant, and after graduation from university, and so I spent my time basically doing something that's called vesting pension plans, basically getting rid of defined benefit pension plan and converting them into 401ks, basically a savings account. And that's really the problem with these is that it basically shifts the risk of retirement onto the employee, away from the employer, because now it's just a savings account. It's whatever you can buy at retirement. Anyway, blah blah blah. I do some more actuarial stuff, and I don't like really the environment. And then high tech was kind of happening then, and so I decided to do consulting, independent consulting, and joined the company, and eventually moved to their headquarters in California in 2000. So I moved my family. Antoine was born in his brother were born in Canada, and then we moved the whole gang in 2000 in California. And
why did you pick California? I'm curious. What was the
I was
there?
tired of the winter.
Amen.
Exactly, right?
Trying to go as southern as we can. Southern. And
I don't understand why people live there, honestly, but
well, maybe if they can find more 8 units that are cash flowing with no money down, maybe that would keep me there, perhaps. But,
I don't know, but I would have somebody over there manage them. But
absolutely, that's right.
So when I moved here, then I knew I had like a lot of stock options at the time, and I was just like, okay, well, I need to diversify, and I was really keen on getting into real estate again. And real estate in California, even in 2000, was insane.
Right.
So, but I tried to find for something that would cash flow, and basically you can cash flow, but you had to put a lot of cash into it. And then the return on equity was like 1% or 2%. So I said, well, I might as well stay in the stock market. But then 2001, remember that wonderful year, we had a big crash, the dot-com crash in 2001. So that basically wiped me out pretty much. I had some money left, but I mean, that whatever I had left, I basically decided to buy a house at that point. But really, the shift that happened there is that I said, well, I really need to focus on something that I can control, and something that's going to generate passive income, and that's going to be also provide a legacy for future generation. And that 2001, this is where it really say, okay, well, I have to do something. And so I did all kinds of different businesses, and my wife and I, and then the plan was already, I had a pretty good paying job. So the plan was always like, oh, my wife would kind of work the business, get it started, get it off the ground. I would do, the finance, the accounting, blah, 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 operations. And then she would do the sales.
And I'm curious, what businesses were those? Because I first of all, I think what's interesting is that I think it's something like 70% of businesses are actually family businesses. So I think I always find it fascinating when people find it within to kind of, integrate everybody. But I guess initially when you say with your wife, were you guys doing small businesses outside of real estate, or what was it?
Oh yeah, it was outside of real estate. So we did the first one. Lynn had done it. My wife had done a couple of other ones on her own. But then the one that we did together was actually she did that one on her own. It was the low carb grocery store. And I don't know if Antoine mentioned it in his story, but he loved that store. He was working in there, and when we set it all up, he was working. I think he was like 6-7 years old or something like that. He was so young, and then he was working side by side with a distributor that was doing all the shelving and stuff like that, and they were working side by side. And then she would say, "Oh, Antoine, where do you think we should put this product?" And then they would speak like, my God, like merchandisers and stuff. "Oh, I think we should put it there."
No kidding.
He was like, it was like, I forget how old he was, but anyways, very young.
What kind of store was this again, Eric?
It was a low carb grocery store. You remember Atkins diet?
Yeah, diet. Yeah. No kidding.
So that was really booming at the time.
Of course, it's California. Everybody wants to look good, right?
And exactly. Yeah. And so it was great. He ran the cash register and all of that, and dealt with customer and stuff. And but then Atkins died, so that was the big guy, the big sponsor of this whole low carb diet kind of thing. And so basically the whole industry kind of collapsed, and the whole interest around that collapsed. Then we did a gourmet sauce company. We did, so that was pretty good. But again, we ran this like 5 years, and it really didn't take off. Like, it didn't have the, we were expecting, we want to have passive income. So we want to be able to basically put it in the store and it sells itself. People get hooked on it, and then but it didn't work like that. I mean, we had to constantly spend money to market it and to do in-store demos, they call it, and all kinds of promotions, like every other week in order for the product to move. And if the product doesn't move, then you kind of
stuck with it.
The store calls you and they say, hey, get your product off the shelf. You have to buy it back or something like that.
Oh wow! Now, I'm out of curiosity, because think a lot of us are in the real estate business for the real
Yeah,
estate.
yeah.
So I do like to highlight these
Yeah, I'm
these
sorry about
points
that.
you're making. No,
Yeah.
this is what I'm saying is it's in the lab. When I did welcome you into the lab, is it is entrepreneurs, people who are business oriented,
Yeah.
people who are interested in real estate. The two come together like wonderwork. So I do want to highlight that because I was in, I was in e-commerce as well, but it was very different. It was like a very drop shipping model, and we were thinking of doing white label before, and it meant holding the inventory ahead of time, which again, we all know that nightmare. So I'm curious, when you were doing this, was it more of just understanding that kind of business? Is it a bulk amount of wholesale after, or is it one of those where you get the shelf space and then you have to move it? I'm curious, how does that work?
Yeah, every store is pretty different, and but some stores, you have to, you can put the products on the shelf, and then you talk to the the manager and stuff like that. We were at Whole Foods, for example, and then so the Whole Food, the team leader, I had a lot of leeway into what products they can bring. So you can go to your local store and say, hey, I'm a local producer here, and I want to put my product on your shelf and stuff like that. I say, yeah, okay, sure. That's how much, and then you talk about that. And then they run you a report. They put you in the system, they run you a report. And then after a couple of months, if that doesn't work out, then they say, well, this is not working out. You can take your product, or we can just.
Got it. So you were providing the gourmet sauces on other people's shelves.
Oh, yeah. It was at Whole Foods, where all of Whole Foods and some other, also in Northwest and Home Goods and in Canada as well.
Okay. So I want to highlight that for a second, because you said you started at a very young age, real estate, 18 years, and then you obviously pivoted and of course, you gone to school, and then you did some consulting. So were you thinking, okay, let me just first make as much money as I can, and then did you always have investing at the back of your mind, or was that kind of like put on the back burner, or like what happened during that time when you from 18 to that transitional period?
I knew I would be I was an entrepreneur when I was like 9 years old. So, people remind me of things I've said when I was younger. And so, I knew that I was not going to work as a full-time employee forever. So I was in the back of my mind, I was always, I was always trying to find a way to do something. And as far as I remember, whenever I had a full-time job, I always had a side gig that I was working, another side business that I was trying to get off the ground.
How can you talk about how, I'm so glad you said that, Eric. Can you talk about how important that is? Because I know that right now in this day and age, it's pretty sexy to just say, hey, peace, this is not working out, like I'm gonna start my own thing. But it sounds like and maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just getting this from you now, maybe I'm incorrect, but it sounds like we're pretty strategic in, making money the way you're supposed to make money in a career, and then kind of deploying that into business. Was that the strategy, or was it just until something takes off, then I'll leave the job behind? And I just want to hear your perspective, because I think it's important for people to understand, or an entrepreneur who's employed, to hear this.
Yeah. So when I was, obviously when I was by myself, then, it doesn't matter. I don't have to ask permission for anything. And if when you're 18 years old and you have, what's the bank going to do if I don't pay the mortgage? So I was just like, what you want to have? Because when I signed the check for the what is that called? When you do the application for the mortgage and stuff like that, I had to write a check for $100 or $125, and I think I had like $200 in my bank account. So, what's the bank gonna do if I don't pay the mortgage? So there's not much consequences associated with that. When you get a family and all of that, and you have a house, and you have to pay and you don't want to lose your house, then you have to be a little bit more strategic and make sure that, you have to keep the revenue flowing. So this is why it was great. A lot of the time, the strategy was, I keep my job. Like I work, I was an independent consultant at the time. So I would work that. And then my wife would start, really working these businesses. She worked heavily on the sauce business, for example, and all the sales and marketing and the operations. I would be the kind of like the back office kind of person on the systems and the finances and all of that. And any kind of research also in terms of, food and, batch, manufacturing and stuff like that. So I would work with that. But yeah, so that's how we did it. And the plan was that, okay, well, let's see how this takes off and how this takes off. And eventually the hope was that it would work out, and then I would be able to quit my job. And then eventually what happens is that as the next business was actually Etienne, you haven't met him, but he's Antoine's brother.
Yes.
And so he told me that he wanted to be in real estate. So he wanted to do real estate investing. And then I said, oh, okay, well, this is different. And then that kind of took me back to my 18-year-old experience. And then we started working on that. We started working in the Bay Area, tried to do flips and tried to do wholesaling and try to, different types of business. But we always tried, it was the market was too tough over there. We were like the small fish in a big pond. People had way more money than we had, or they had more resources, or they had contractors on board. And then, so we kind of like, we tried to do all kinds of different things. And then Antoine, who was studying at university at the time in entrepreneurship, then he started becoming interested in what we were doing. And he said, hey, what are you guys doing? And then so we said, oh yeah. So he got interested into that, and he actually got. So then we tried to do like more commercial stuff, something I was more familiar with. It was more financial and numbers driven. And so, so we continued to pivot. It took us at least a year and maybe 2 years to find the right footing and the right strategy, which ended up being out of state passive income.
Right. And I was going to get there, but I think it's important we talk about the inside, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Inside the teamwork that happened, because I think it's important. You're talking about it at a very high level, but I want to dive deep and give people insight, because I think, this comes up often too in my extended family, etc. Oh yeah, we should start a business, or we should start that. And I think people should, but what does that look like, right? From you have Etienne, you have Antoine who's in school, you have your wife, you have you who has a full-time job. How do you internally, was it, do you, okay, you're good at this, you do that, or delegate? Like, how did that teamwork? Because I think it's important for people to hear that. Like, how does that look like within a household underneath that one roof? How did that happen?
So that's just very interesting. Yeah, we have a very interesting family, I would say. I shouldn't say that, but it's very dynamic. We've started businesses as a short period of time, as like one day. We had the website going, we had the manufacturing going, and samples, pictures of samples from China, all that within 24 hours. So we had a couple of businesses like that.
You guys compression. You guys move quickly.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
have an idea and you guys just go.
It's better to do and see what's going on. You can kind of intellectualize everything and then say, okay, well, I think this is what the market strategy should be, and this is, and come up with a 50-page business plan and all of that. But I think it's much more important to say, okay, well, what, kind of like the one-page business plan. I think this is a great idea. The faster you can get to execution, the better, and then minimize your risk. So that's the other thing. So don't go and invest a huge amount of money into something. Go with small tests and then kind of ramp up after that. But yeah, we focus a lot on numbers. For us, it's all in the numbers. We look at even for the sauce business, it was a completely different business for us. I've never produced anything at. In fact, I didn't even know what the manufacturers were called, and I forget what they're called now. Packer. Anyway, so who, I'm curious, who took that on? Like, is there like a weekly huddle at the dinner time? Like, I want to know, like, what is it like at the Martel's household? Like, so we can get insight to the. Whether Canadian, American families, internationally, like how can we model? Because what you've done, we'll talk about, is remarkable, but it does sound like you guys were onto something. And I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit, because I do think it starts from the top. And I know it sounds like the environment was key, and maybe you had exposure to that and you brought it in at home, and you and Lynn, et cetera. So I just want to get insight. It might seem like second nature to you, but
you may be taking it for granted. What does that structure look like inside the house? You take action really quickly, but then are you guys how are you communicating? Is it,
Okay.
On the fly, structured calls? Like, I'm curious.
Yeah. Okay. So if we go back to the sauce business, right?
Yeah.
So the sauce business actually started from another business that we started, and that business started from a party. So we went to a party, and then they had this. They were talking about something called. You can cut off the name if you don't want to, but this is it's called Dream Dinners or something like that, something to that effect. And it's basically a place where they've done all the shopping, they've done all the chopping, and then you have all the ingredients that are there, and then they have a recipe, and then you kind of book a time, and then you go to that store, and then you put all the ingredients into bags and stuff like that. You bring them home, and then you cook them at home, and blah blah blah. And so some people really like the idea, and I have some strong opinions about that business that I expressed during that party. And I said that doesn't make any sense. The critical component of having a good dinner is how you cook it. So these people, if they're going to buy the ingredients and have to chop them, they don't even know how to chop their own vegetables. How can they cook them properly? Yeah. So they might not like the meal because of their own poor cooking experience. So that doesn't make sense. So then we started talking about that, and this is how we ended up saying, well, we're going to do something better. We're just going to have the prepared meals, and then so that's how we started this. We called that I think it was called Tuesday Night Supper Club, and that was very successful. We had like I think at one point we had like 100 families. We were cooking from home, and it was just insane. And we had a big kitchen, but still, we were at an inflection point at that time where we said, well, this is growing, but we don't have room. We can't do it. We can't handle any more than this. This is insane. What do we want to do to the next steps? So the next logical step was to find a commercial space, commercial kitchen, cook from there, and then do delivery and stuff like that. And this is what some businesses are doing now. But I didn't like that because my criteria. So this is when we kind of establish and kind of what the criteria were for the businesses. So we wanted to have something that had passive income. So that where we could be, basically making money in our sleeps and all that good stuff. So that was the criteria number one. I wanted to be completely not connected to my location. So I didn't want to have a storefront or having to go to a location in order to do business. I wanted to be anywhere in the world I can still do the business. So these were the two key components that we had. And so that's why we decided not to do a restaurant or not to do a commercial space and stuff. So,
and is this over time from the experience that you're like, okay, this is what I don't like, and this is what we do like, or is that?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Because for me, the passive income was key because I knew that it's inevitable. I knew that eventually I want to retire and I want to travel. And being an independent consultant for so many years, the connection between the hours that you work and the dollars that you make is very, very tight. You don't work 1 hour, that's 1 hour you don't get paid. And when you go on vacation, I was making pretty good hourly rate. But when you go on vacation, that vacation is costing you 5 times the flights and hotel. So you think twice before going on vacation, but your family wants to go on vacation. So that's kind of how that works. So that's how these criteria came about. And then based on these criteria, we said, well, what can we extract from our Tuesday Night Supper Club to make a business that would have passive income? So there were sauces that we were using for the Tuesday Night Supper Club. And say, well, why don't we package those into a product, and then we can sell that. So we have to have a contract packer that's going to be basically producing all the sauce and packaging them and shipping them, so that we can be anywhere in the world, get an order, and then call the contract packer and say, hey, you need to send this to to the distributor or to the store, blah blah blah, right? So that was the idea there. So that's when the gourmet sauce company kind of got started. We didn't know anything about that, and our focus at that point was a couple of things. One of them was kind of finding the right resources to do this. So the contract packer was one of them. How do we bottle company, any kind of food scientist, and all that kind of stuff, and also labeling and marketing. So how to produce, so an artist produce the label, and then we had to deal also with the product itself. So how do we kind of line those two things up, so that if you want to have a gourmet sauce, well, it has to look gourmet. You have to have a certain bottle. You have to have a label that looks a certain way, etc. Right. So these two together, and then you have at the top of that, then you have to figure out what the numbers look like. So you want to have this bottle, but this bottle could cost X dollars or X pennies more, and that's going to affect your this and that, and then you end up at this price, and then you have to pay the co-packer, you have to pay the distributor, you have to pay the store. This is what the sales price for the consumer is going to look like. Yeah. Does that, and then kind of go back, does that still fit into what what your product wants to do, right?
Take home.
Exactly. Is it too expensive now, or is it too cheap, or something like that? So most of the time, too expensive. So and it's kind of working in that triangle and really tweaking this until you find just the right sweet spot. And you're constantly working that. Every penny counts in that business. And
just like any business. Don't, just like any business. And so I want to use this as a springboard to how you guys created your turnkey business today. Mm-hmm. So that was a good insight. But I do want to highlight what you said is very important, because I don't think sometimes we take enough time to think about our lifestyle and what we want it to be like, and if it's in alignment with our goals. And I think sometimes that happens when people actually create a new job out of a business that's even way worse than the job that they may have had with their, whether it's a month off, vacation, whatever you call it. But a lot of entrepreneurs sometimes go the other route. And one of my favorite books is actually The Millionaire Fast Lane by MJ DeMarco. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
Oh no, I don't know.
Because it goes through, you talk about passive income and not location. And he uses the SENSE acronym. Does your business have control? Is it a high or low barrier of entry? Is there a need for it? Is it time dependent? And is it scalable? SENSE. I would recommend it to anybody. And I think you define that, and then you built that internally into what is now externally. So I want to fast forward. You're in California. You're trying to do the real estate thing. Very competitive, high prices. You go out of state, which is a huge leap, and I think people have friction with that. How did you make that initial jump? I know I've heard some insight from Antoine about it, but I want to hear it from you too. How did that go? Okay, we're going to go out of state. Was that a decision that was just like after you kept hitting the wall, or what was that?
So I think we decided to, at that point, we were still interested in real estate. Then we said, well, let's do passive income instead of doing this, a lot of transaction and all of that.
Flipping, right? Compared to flipping, it's a full-time job.
That's right, yeah. And we said, okay, well, let's do, and it was part of it is the time component. I mean, the advantage that I had on my side was that I had Antoine that was just graduating and he had time. Even at university, he had some free time to help. And then I had my other sons that was also a real estate agent and interested in real estate. So we had these two people, two individuals that, they could help with the business. So that's the advantage. A lot of people don't have that. They're just by themselves, and it's so you have to be, you choose your strategy based on these constraints, your time, money, and then the skills and resources that you have. So, and so I think at the time, so we had done all kinds of things. We had done commercial. That was the last thing that we did in California, I think. Then we decided this California market is not working for us. It's working for some people. It's not working for us. And then it's okay, well, let's, what is the next thing? And then we saw, let's do some passive income and to kind of build a portfolio of rental properties. And then we just like, then we'll see where at least we can, get some time to think about it. And so that's when we started looking out of state. And then we said, if we were to find the perfect passive income property, obviously that has to cash flow. We wanted to be in a market that was landlord friendly, so that if somebody decides that they don't want to pay the rent, that we can, fairly easily evict them, and then get a tenant paying in there, and that it was less regulations in general. It was just easier for us to get in. So that's we can established our criteria at that point to and say where can I find these properties? And so Cleveland, Memphis, St. Louis, I think Indianapolis. There's a couple of other ones that showed up on that map. And Antoine was I think Etienne at that point was working as a real estate agent. He was trying to experience that part of it. And then Antoine was free, so he said, "Okay, well, I'll do it." So, and I was working full time as an independent consultant. So he was calling this, because then we looked at what resources do we need. We need somebody on the ground. We need a realtor. We need property management. We need a contractor. And then we need to find some deals and all that.
And what was the blueprint though? Were you guys going to take? At that point, you had already said we're done with the flipping thing. We're going to look for passive income. So we need all these to be successful to acquire our first turnkey passive income unit. Like what was that?
We were thinking BRRRR. That's what we were thinking. BRRRR strategy. Yeah. So which is basically you buy distressed property, you renovate it, rent it out, and then you refinance. And then the other R is repeat. So that was our plan, right? So I said, okay, let's do that. And then so we go through, and Antoine does like 100 phone calls and stuff like that, and talk to lots of realtors, and then actually not that many. I think he called 100 people, but only like 3 or 4 replied within the right time frame. And so we talked to them, and they look good. And one of them in Memphis was fantastic. Then a couple of other ones in Cleveland, etc. So Antoine kind of like set that up, work with them, and say, hey, I need a property management, I need this, I need that, kind of and vetted that. And then we would meet, Antoine and I, we would meet every day at night, in the weekend, and stuff like that. And I was, being an independent consultant, I had a lot of flexibility with my time as well. So we were able to talk also during the day.
I think that's really important too, and I think people are feeling it now during COVID too. I think creating, and I want to get to you because you talk about your book "Stop Trading Time for Money," which I think is really in sync. I guess there's so much synergy, because I just did a TEDx talk on how to get more than 24 hours in your day. And I'm sure, and I want to get my hands on it because I'm sure it's the exact same thing. But I think what I want to talk about and want to highlight that's important is like creating that. Start with where you are, and I know Antoine has actually given me that insight. Start where it makes sense for you. Try to create some flexibility in your life. If you're a consultant, if you do have some downtime, if you can have two computers open. I know it because I'm guilty of it too. As I'm transitioning into my full-time business career, I can still kind of double dip but you can set yourself up that way. And I think if you're aligning yourself up correctly with the goals of saying, hey, this is my goal, I want passive income and I don't want to be tied to a location, maybe you can find remote work, kind of like
absolutely,
consulting, very similar,
like the nomads.
It's important for people to digital nomads, absolutely. That's what we're trying to build. So I think you're highlighting these important pieces, and I don't even know if you mean to, but I'm hearing them because I'm like, that makes sense, and I think that helps tell the story. So that's fascinating. So you're meeting with Antoine periodically, and he's kind of running the show as well, but you're also available. What kind of availability are you helping with him, and how are you kind of what are you delegating, and what are you guys just strategically huddling? I'm just curious.
That's right. Yeah. So it's just really at the strategy. So we're talking about, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is, and then Antoine was just like, get on the phone, and talk to people. And the funny thing is, by the way,
do you like talking to people on the phone?
I do.
Okay, you do? Okay, good. That's interesting. Yeah. I was wondering if you were kind of if he was filling that gap somehow. I was curious.
Well, I didn't have much time, right? So I just, and in fact, Antoine was the one that didn't like to talk to people on the phone. He didn't like to do presentations. And look at him now. He's presenting every day on Instagram. He has like 70,000 followers there, and he's on the phone all the time. Really mean, he's really, But yeah, he was the one that didn't like to talk on the phone. And that could be a lesson as well. Is that, as an entrepreneur, sometimes you have to do things that you're not comfortable with. And Antoine was definitely not comfortable doing that. But he did it. And the thing that helped him a little bit too is that he has a very deep voice. So, and I told him when he was calling them, I said, well, they're not going to take me seriously and all of that. I said, Antoine, they don't know. Their voice is so deep. They think you're 30 years old or 40 years old. So just go with the flow and talk. Do you know what you're talking about? So you're smart. You know what you're looking for, and go for it. Amazing. And yeah. So you're great. Then you met these guys in person, and then they're just like, "What is that? You?"
This is the guy calling the shots, huh?
Exactly. Yeah. So awesome. That's awesome. Absolutely. So it was very good for him, and really getting out of his shell, I think, and like he was always very good. Like, we talked about the low carb grocery store. I mean, he had like a keen sense of business sense and all of that, and like very interested in that aspect of it. And we can talk about all the other businesses. I mean, you probably did talk about all the different businesses. Yeah, we did talk about.
He dabbled in a lot of stuff as a real entrepreneur.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, wonder where he got that from.
Yeah. Well, part of it is that also in all the businesses that we've done, we haven't lost money. We haven't made money, but we haven't lost money.
How do you put yourself in that position, and in hindsight, what do you think it was that allowed you to not lose money?
I think we were we spent a lot of time on the numbers, making sure that the numbers make sense up front, and then taking go step by step, not try to go and jump to, oh, wow, this is going to be a fantastic product. Let's do, let's spend $200,000 in inventory and then be stuck with it. And not entering into deals that were too constraining or too risky for us. So we could have gone, for example, for a Costco deal. And Costco, they want you to have like 6 pallets of sauce, for example. And then you have one weekend. I forget what they're called. They have like one weekend, and then if you don't sell, you buy back your product. So here you go. You put like $200,000 in product that you have to ship there. You spend your weekend, do the in-store demos, and then if that doesn't work out, if you don't sell enough according to them, then you take your product home.
That's tough.
Yeah, so it's very tough. So you have to be certain. So so we didn't go into these deals because we didn't want to take that risk, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's my lessons learned, I would say, on that one.
Yeah, no, these are good because I can all see how those are all ingredients to a successful formula in real estate. So fast forward. A little
food pun, I see.
See what I did there, right? I'm telling you, and it's the lab, so we're cooking up. So I'm telling you, we're stirring the pot. But so we're gathering all this data. This is good. So fast forward to today. Okay, so where are you guys at? Give some context. I don't want you guys to you guys are such humble individuals, and I love what you guys are doing. But give us some numbers for the listeners to see how, it started from small businesses here and there, the first deal out of state. Where are you at today to give us some context for our listeners?
So the first deal that we did out of state was actually in Memphis. And so it was one house. Again, we started very small. We started with one house. We renovated it, rented it out. And we were so amazed by how smoothly that went. We said, okay, well, let's do 2 more. And then let's do, 4 more and stuff like that. And that's kind of how we grew that business. But again, we were at that time when we got started, I think it was 2017. I mean, we were just thinking about ourselves, building our portfolio. And then, but then our friends and people that knew us were kind of like, hey, what are Martels doing? What are they up to? Because they knew we always do something, something.
You're always
innovative.
Up to something. You're always cooking something.
We haven't heard from them in a while. We better check on them. So then they started being interested in that, and people wanted to buy some of these turnkey these rentals that after they were rented out, they wanted to have a turnkey rental they can just buy from us. And then
what are some numbers? I know we can check them out on your site, but what are some of the numbers that we're looking at here?
Typically,
give maybe some of your Californians some context of
oh my goodness, be careful. Their head is going to explode. A house typically around that you can buy in Memphis or Cleveland around $90,000.
Yeah. So let's talk about your cost going in and then your little rehab.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So that really depends, but our cost is really, we are around like $40,000-$50,000, putting like $15,000 to $20,000 in rehab cost.
Cosmetic rehabs, right?
They're pretty significant. I mean, we look at all
20 grand.
Well, again, it's not like it's not California renos, and it's also rental renos. So we don't do there's no granite counter. There's no, the kitchen is pretty simple and all that. And then we have some good appliances, but it's not top of the line. We don't have the Viking or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what we do. But we really focus on the important stuff. Obviously, cosmetic is important as well. So it's all looks nice. But we look a lot at hardwood floors or planks, like the vinyl planks and stuff like that. So we redo normally all the floors, bathrooms, and kitchen. We kind of refinish them a little bit, and then new appliances, and then we look at the mechanicals as well. So like furnace, air conditioning, hot water tank, and all of that. Make sure that there's sufficient lifespan left on for that for all the mechanicals basically. And then we resell them around $85,000, $90,000 depending on the area. And typically they would rent for around $900. So if you're familiar with the 1% rule, so we're right there, and sometimes they're a little bit more. So cash flow typically after you've paid your property management, your your insurance and property taxes and your mortgage, you're left around $250 a month. And you've put like $20,000 in down payment, so you have like 15% cash on cash return.
Well, and I guess so. It makes sense to why you'd invest in them. I guess I'm curious in your world. Are you? I mean, I know you're selling them, but the question I would ask, 2 separate questions: why sell them, or do you guys keep a balance of keeping some for yourself? You sell them away.
So what we did is after we've built a couple of these properties, I actually sold my primary residence in 2018 because I had that equity sitting in the house, and I tried to extract it as much as possible. So I maxed out on the line of credit and all of that. And then we said, okay, well, we have to do something. I kept imagining the equity sitting on the couch, relaxing with a beer in hand, and me working my ass off. I just that really got me angry. So I was working from my house. That's what it felt
Absolutely,
like.
Yes.
Every day, and I was just like, get off the couch, and so we sold the house in 2018, and that money, that equity that we freed from that is we really put it to work in multifamily. So we bought an apartment building, and then we bought a couple more. So we actually have like 5 apartment buildings right now in Memphis, downtown Memphis, and renovated them. And I think we have a couple more apartments. One apartment building that needs to be finished. We haven't really touched it that much, but then the other one are pretty much finished. And so that's the investment that we did with it. So
was there pushback in the family at all with that? Because I know that that's a thing that people don't really. I think that's a big problem, right? People are sitting on equity, and it's funny you mentioned this word. No, excuse me for a second.
Yep.
You mentioned this word return on equity. Not everybody says that, and I think you're very well aware of it. Did you have pushback on letting go of that equity that you're sitting on? Because people look at their homes as an asset when it's maybe really a liability. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yep, exactly. This is exactly what happened. People define kind of wealth as kind of the amount of equity they have. I think it's true to a certain extent, but as long as you are willing to do something to get the equity when you need it. So I think if you have an investment of any kind of investment where you have equity in it, it could be an apartment building, let's say, and you say, well, it's just an apartment building. If I want to get the equity out, I'll just sell it or whatever. So if you're willing to do that, then I think this is pretty good. But when it comes down to your primary residence, people have completely different emotions around that. And you talk about the American dream and all of that, and I say, oh no, this is important and it's a good investment and blah blah blah. But it's a good investment only if you're willing to do something about it. Like if you're not willing to sell it and get the profit out, if you're really thinking about it as an investment, then you would sell it as soon as you have achieved $500,000 in capital gains on this property. You would sell it and then buy another property. So if that's what you're doing as a strategy, that's excellent. I think you should buy your own home. But other people, they want to keep it for 20 years and all of that, and that doesn't add up. Pay it off, and then that's the other thing too. So, oh no, it's going to be paid off when I retire, but you're still going to have to pay property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and all that kind of stuff. So it's not free.
It means to an end. It's a means to an end. Just like again, I want to highlight back to your, when you're consulting, when you're working, it's okay to do all these things as long as you're optimizing for. And I should be careful when I say this because not everybody has the same goal as I do, but I do believe that if you're listening to this, that you're probably someone along the lines of who's interested in business, interested in passive income and returns on equity, returns on investment. So I think echoing that message for the listener is you're a prime example of that, and that's fantastic. So today again, I do want to highlight this because I want to give people a chance to check out some of the properties that you have, and we're doing such a good job of getting into the stories. Today, what does the portfolio look like? And I know you started talking about going to multifamily apartments. You started bringing friends and family, which I'm sure perhaps maybe you guys are starting to pull some money in, which I think is super smart. It's leverage. Is that where the vision is, or is that something that's kind of growing and you're kind of taking as you go? The question I was asking is I'll just recap what I was saying is you guys got into the turnkey and you told me, you use some of the equity to buy multifamily apartments as well. Is that a direction that you see now you guys are going into, and you're bringing in some friends and family and you're pulling in money, which I think is very smart. Is that a direction that you feel you're going in lieu of Burr, or in addition to, and you're going to continue to do what got you there?
Actually, right now it's all turnkey. So this is our big focus right now is turnkey. We're actually in the process of selling the apartment buildings that we've renovated. So we have 3 for sale right now, and then that equity that we've built up there, we're going to put it back into MartelTurnkey so that we can accelerate the growth of MartelTurnkey.
Okay, interesting. What's the growth?
Yeah.
Are we going to other states? Are we going to just dominate Cleveland? Because I know Anton told me last time you guys create your own comps, which I thought was fascinating. What's the play there?
So exactly. So we want to expand in Cleveland. We want to double up in Memphis, and then we're opening up other markets as well. Kind of like go back to some of the other markets where we were in, and then exploring some other options as well. But yeah, it's kind of, and we want to make it more systematized, and then bring more people in so that it's more. It basically run on its own. So we get passive income, but the passive income now is going to come from the business itself. The business is going to be self-managed. So that's what we're going to be working on next year. And we're going to also do more seller financing next year to kind of accelerate the growth as well. Because we saw there was a lot of delays in financing and requirements and all that kind of stuff. And then sometimes we would waste like a month in waiting for financing. So now if we do seller financing, I mean, we can finance right on the spot. And then we had some also investors that they don't have W-2s. They have good, like solid other income, and they couldn't get financing.
Yeah, that's
in fact, I couldn't get financing.
Yeah, well, that's another thing, right? As consultants, I'm actually going through it right now. I have to a contract, and they're looking at the 1099 or W-2, and it's like, dude, I get like they make it hard sometimes, and I think it's important to have that, because I was talking to another lender who was doing like bank statements only. I'm like, great. I'm glad to hear that, and this is a plug to MartelTurnkey. Because I think that you're as an entrepreneur and as business, you're always kind of trying to fill the gap and seeing how you can serve the marketplace. So I think that's
I mean, you're constantly and you're constantly tweaking the business. I mean, when we looked at the portfolio for the single family, I mean, you go in there and it looks good, and then you constantly look at the metrics and you say, okay, well, how can we make that better? We're always talking about it, we're always looking at it and say, how can we make this better? And part of the reason why we also started selling these rentals turnkey is because at the beginning we were able to get like portfolio financing. So basically bundling 4 or 5 single family rentals together and get one loan for it. And that's considered like a commercial loan at that point. And then they didn't care about my W-2, because I was working as an independent consultant, and I had all these weird things on my income statement and all of that. So they didn't like it. So I couldn't get regular financing, So that's why, the portfolio loans were great to get started, but then they canceled the portfolio loans, the financial institution that we were working with. So we tried to look for other ones, and then just that didn't work out. If you go in apartment buildings, they don't care about your W-2. All the commercial lending is all asset-based lending. So they just look at the asset itself. Does it make money? What's the rent roll? All of that, and they don't care about your W-2. So that's one of the reasons why we went and invested in that, and then invested in Turnkey after that.
Interesting. Solving your own problem, scratching your own itch, and then offering it back to the marketplace.
Well, exactly, right? I mean, this is business. This is entrepreneurship. I mean, we keep constantly look at, what's going on, look at the numbers. How can we make it better? How can we make it better for our investors and all of that, and constantly tweaking.
Awesome.
Yep.
Let's go into the keeping it real segment. I want to, I knew we were going to have a blast, and we literally doubled the time because I'm just having such a good time chatting with you.
Good.
Lost track of time. I want to hear this from you though, really quickly. What's the biggest misconception that you think that people face in it's, I want to say business, because you're clearly business and you just happen to be in the real estate business, but what do you think one of those things that, with all the knowledge and your experience that you had, what is the biggest misconception that you think exists out there?
I think the biggest misconception, people think that because they have an idea, they think they have a business. So having an idea to build a software and stuff like that doesn't mean you have a software. And even having the software, an application and stuff like that doesn't mean you have a business either. A business is a lot of different components that have to work together in order to make money. So that's the key right there. I have so many people that are bringing ideas and say, "Oh yeah, you should do this." Yeah, no, it's your idea. Why not you do it?
Because it's easy to have ideas, but it's hard to execute. That's the problem, right?
Exactly, right? I mean, all these things have to work together. And
yeah. No, I literally had this conversation the other day because I said, no, I had that idea. And I said that knowing that how foolish it sounds, but I wasn't even trying to, sound like I had that idea. I was like, yes, I had the idea, but I didn't execute on it. Right? So that's a complete different ballgame. Everybody has great ideas. There's a bunch of $1 million ideas around it, but who's going to execute the $1 million system and operation? That's a whole different story.
Exactly.
And I'm looking at the man right there, and you've done that. So I'm really stoked. So the core rapid fire questions, real quick. I'm curious. You're very knowledgeable. You've learned business, know the numbers. You have a favorite book? I know we talk about yours, which we got to plug into the show notes. But besides that, do you have a favorite book that really resonates with you?
My book is Stop Trading Your Time for Money, but
plug.
I think one of them that people don't, and I love the title, is called "What Got You Here Won't Get You There." And I think this is a very good book for people who don't realize yet that they have to do a mindset shift in order to get into financial freedom. So what got you here won't get you there.
Definitely, we'll get the author on that for sure. We'll put
I don't know the author. Yeah.
Well, we'll get it in there.
Yeah.
Best habit that serves you every day, Eric.
I would say, I think consistency. I think. I think, analysis.
Nice.
Thinking.
Yeah. But is there a best tool that helps you, that serves you throughout the day? Anything.
Best tool. Well, I would say kind of like Excel or these spreadsheets. I mean, we use that quite a bit, definitely.
Said like a true numbers guy, of course.
I don't think there would be any business without Excel. I don't think that.
Know. Absolutely. Live and die by it. I'm very curious to hear what you say on this one. 300 unit apartment or 100 turnkey properties?
100 turnkey.
Wow, interesting. That's really cool. I could see that you're that is your bread and butter. Live and die by it. Is it? I gotta ask real quick. Why? Is it?
Well, I would say, especially for the young, the newer investor and stuff like that, I think that the advantage is that you have more liquidity. So I know it doesn't seem like it, but it's easier to sell a couple of properties, a couple of single-family rentals, than to sell an apartment building. So that's probably one of the biggest reason.
That's a great answer, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Cash flow or equity?
Well, I think cash flow is definitely the game. I mean, to me, like, I always want to convert my equity into cash flow. That's what you want to do.
I like that. You might have to brand that. Convert equity into cash flow.
Well, otherwise, I mean, to me, the image that I have, if you just have that equity sitting there, is that cash sitting on the sofa with a beer. That's
I'm gonna get the team to create a meme of that and put your head.
Yeah. That's what I imagine all the time. It's like, get off the couch.
You said it twice, so we're going to create some, and we'll get Antoine to post it.
Yeah.
Get off the couch. All right. Self-manage or outsource?
So definitely outsource. I outsource everything. Everything I can, and there's always some things that you're going to keep not to yourself, but that you're the best at and stuff like that, or that you haven't systematized yet.
Yeah.
But even that I want to outsource. Got
it. Lastly, I got to ask this one because our team produces our content. How much has your business succeeded from social media? How much has it benefited from it?
Oh, it's been critical. I mean, Antoine can tell you stories of, properties we were looking for an investor on. he posts something on Instagram. He has a lot of followers on Instagram, he would get like people contacting him and say, "Hey, I have $100,000."
You'd be surprised, right?
Oh, I'm surprised every time. It happened. This is real stuff. It happened often. So yeah, so social media is critical for us, also critical for educating people. So that's why I have my YouTube channel, and I'm starting another YouTube channel that's more I have one that's more like about interviews, but now I'm doing another one that's more about education or sharing ideas and stuff like that. So I think that's critical for people to learn. You're not going to learn that stuff at school. So
yeah. No, I love that. And we'll be sure to plug in your YouTube channel's name as well. It's a great segue to what I'm about to ask next is, first of all, thank you so much for coming into the lab. Keeping it in the family, as I like to say.
Yeah.
We had, next time we're going to do this in French. For sure.
Absolument. Oui.
Absolument. Pour les Français, les Canadiens, les Français, anywhere around the world. Whoever speaks French, we got you. We'll get you a version. And everything comes full circle. Where can we find out more about the wonderful stuff that you and your family are doing, and to stay in touch with you and what you can offer to the marketplace?
So for me, I have my own website called MartelEric.com. So there you can find links to my books and all the social media that I'm on. On Instagram, it's E_Martel, MARTEL. And on Facebook, eric.martel.ca. Awesome.
We'll be sure to include that in the show notes. I'm going to take this screenshot right here. Just so I can send that to Antoine. I think he actually just texted me. I saw it coming in during the show. We keep it in the family here in the lab, and make sure
keeping it real.
Keeping it real. We got Eric here with us, and obviously we had Antoine in the past, and it's just so good to see the whole family come together. And you guys are crushing it, and I hope this finds you and everybody well. Everybody stay safe. We got to do this again.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. And just like that, we are out. Eric.